Well, county health officials have announced new plans to combat the spread of West Nile. KCRA3's Josh Bernstein live in Elk Grove with more on the county's plans. Josh?
Walt, an aerial assault on mosquitoes starts Monday nights. Now, there is cause for concern. There are more than 33 locations in northern Sacramento County where they have found large numbers of mosquitoes that are testing positive for West Nile. So far, only 2 human cases where people have tested positive here in Sacramento County for West Nile. But vector control isn't taking
City Council, primary care physician in Fair Oaks, and there was a recent study that there's 2/3 increase in autism rates from pregnant women being around pesticides. And we have a pretty marked increase in spraying for mosquitoes this year. And the current recommendations for caution do not include any special note to pregnant women. And I'd like to ask the City Council to please communicate with the Vector Control District to include cautions that pregnant women be out of the area or very carefully indoors. Would also be useful to include that the areas outside that might get taken indoors, whether walking on the walkways or toys or garden food, be rinsed, because if you take the pesticide inside, it doesn't deteriorate. I think we do have a need to look at whether we really need this much mosquito spraying, because it's quite a bit increased and it may actually undermine the health of the population that we're trying to protect, which is the very tiny percentage of people who are vulnerable to the severe version of West Nile virus.
Good evening. My name is Julie Ostowich. When Sacramento YOLO Vector Mosquito Control District began spraying pesticides aerially for West Nile virus in 2006, they used a pyrethrin chemical and said it was safe. Afterwards, there were reports of pet illnesses, pet deaths, and bee deaths. And then in 2012, they changed to a new mix of chemicals that contained an organophosphate. Before that spraying occurred, and they sprayed directly over my home, my garden was teeming with bees, butterflies. I had elaborate orb spiders. And after they sprayed, I went out into my yard and everything was gone. I found dead bees, dead spiders, dead everything. And the bees never returned, they never recovered, but there were plenty of flies. Flies came back really quick and there was lots of those. Now they're spraying with a new chemical called trumpet. This chemical contains an ingredient called dichlorobos, which is on the Prop 65 list as a carcinogen. We have an epidemic of cancer. We have an epidemic of people. I'm sure everybody in this room knows somebody personally who's had cancer or who has a family member that's had cancer. 1 out of 3 people now get cancer. And as Dr. Sutton mentioned, we have this study that shows the connection between these types of organophosphates and risk for autism. So what is the real epidemic? There's a very tiny, tiny percentage of people who come down with this severe form of the West Nile virus versus how many people who are immunocompromised, pregnant, and have other serious conditions that are being harmed by these chemicals that they're spraying over us. So I ask you to look into this and consider whether it's really justified to do this to us or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you guys doing today? Thank you for your time. My name is Joshua Foster, and I'm here with the same concern as the previous speakers. There's a lot of things going on here there's a lot of spraying going on to combat a disease that really impacts less than 1% of the people at a high level. And Mayor, you know, if you hit 99%, you're doing pretty well. So what they're focusing on is helping 1% of the population, less than 1%, but they're spraying everybody. Now, I know from these lists, if you have an organic garden or you're certified organic in Sacramento, none of these things that they're spraying are on this list of approved chemicals to be sprayed for organic farming. So I know you're talking about farm to fork, soil-borne farms. You're spraying them. That's our local organic farm. That's our best producer, and you're spraying them. I don't know who the Sacramento Yellow Mosquito and Vector Control District, I don't know who they report to or who gives them the authority to make these decisions and spray us with this stuff, and people don't even know. I mean, I've seen the clerk here looking online, and she's probably thinking, man, I hope they're not spraying over my house. And somebody that I was talking to earlier to tell her that I was coming here to speak tonight, I look online and they're spraying over her house the next couple of days in Orangevale. This is, you guys are our top line of defense as citizens here, and I've lived here a long time. We don't have anybody higher to go to. We need you guys to go to bat for us and look into this, please.
Yes, these men and their hypnotized followers call this a new order. It is not new, and it is not order.